All right. Well, welcome to the very first episode of the Focused Fundraiser. We're going to explore what really matters in fundraising on this weekly live stream because doing more is not the goal. Doing what matters most is. And the goal at this time is to hear from successful fundraisers like Courtney who are in the trenches and who are willing to share the practices they use on a daily basis to focus on what matters most and what moves the needle for them. So today I'm joined by Courtney Harrness, who is currently the Director of Advancement at Vermont Association for Medical Health and Addiction Recovery. Courtney, super excited to dig into this with you. Thanks for joining me and for being the very first guest on Focused Fundraiser.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And, it's always funny to be mentioned as a successful fundraiser. I just said yesterday in a staff meeting, fundraising is kind of like Major League Baseball, where I can be good 30% of the time and be in the Hall of Fame. So,
That's a good batting average, right?
yeah, very good.
So, yeah, give us a little bit of your backstory. You've been in the fundraising space for many years. Tell us a little bit about your background and some of the things you've seen change over the years in fundraising.
Sure. Yeah. About 20 years. I joke with people that my first nonprofit job, I didn't even know it was a nonprofit for about the first year. But, you fall into this space, a lot of us on accident, or maybe through just a hunch or a feeling, and you start to get a feel for the purpose and the story and the impact that you can have. Rob, I've been super blessed to learn from some great leaders. Most of the stuff that I do and say is not my own by any stretch of the imagination. It's just things that I picked up and learned along the way. And I'm a born and raised Vermonter. And for those of us born and raised there, we're really proud of that and really proud of the community that we grew up in and how that looks and feels. And a lot of these things that I bring to my fundraising approach is just how I grew up. And so, for me, there's not a secret sauce. And it's hard for me sometimes to even describe it because I have to think back and what were those lessons that I learned and how did I learn them and how do I bring those to life? But fortunate to be working for VAMHAR now in a role that is really deeply personal for me with a phenomenal team and state, not just philanthropists and foundations, but all the way through our government as well that are really, really focused on how we can create a Vermont where everyone can thrive.
That's good. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. You've held roles in the national level of organizations, but now you're in more of a state level of a nonprofit. Have you seen a change in how you have to define success going from a national to state level, or what's been changed over the course of your career with that?
So much. And I think it depends on where you are. And, being born and raised in Vermont and then having most of my career in large urban areas, the population of Vermont is smaller than most of the cities that I've lived in all. So when you go in terms of my role with Heron Project in a national and international organization from some perspective, talking about reach and numbers and how many people you serve and groups and money and all of those things, kind of narrowing it down into what a 50th of that potential service area, just looking in different numbers. But I do think it also really helps you narrow your focus in terms of who you want to speak to and who you want to be in the room with and who you want to serve and help and support and impact and provide resources to. I talked a few months back with Tasha Van Vlack in the nonprofit Hive about this exact thing is that I think so often, and this was the trap I fell into, Rob, 15 years ago, thinking that my impact had to be global or it had to be on some gigantic scale, and just understanding that if each of us focused in our neighborhood or in our town or our city or our state, as we start to snowball that impact, it can really grow. And so for me, that's my mindset now, is not how I'm going to fundamentally change the entire 8 billion people in the world, but how what I do in the state of Vermont will change the world. And that has been a shift for me. And I think that concept of thinking locally or acting locally, thinking globally is a shift that I'm seeing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and that, so you are, from a focus standpoint, you are focusing down into your communities that you can touch on a daily basis rather than focusing on the national or international stage,
Yeah, what's the saying, right? Don't try to boil the ocean.
right? That's a good saying.
Yeah.
So you've worked on multiple levels here, but I would assume all of them have complex environments. You have multiple stakeholders, urgent timelines, competing priorities, all of that. How do you decide on a weekly basis what matters that week?
Uh,
What's your tactic on focus and priority?
Yeah, I mean, focus and priority number one is always people. And so as I look out in my schedule over the course of the week, I'm looking at non negotiable meetings, whether that's donors, funders, partners, team meetings, whatever that is, any interaction that is 100% with another human being. I'm
Mm.
focused on that in that amount of time, no matter what it is. If it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 90 minutes, that time I'm focused there. And for me, I go back, and oddly, a lot of people haven't heard this, but it's Steve Jobs' kind of signal versus noise. And I'm always looking kind of 18 hours ahead. What are the 3 to 5 things that I need to do that are mission critical in the next 18 hours? And I need to make sure that those things are accomplished and everything else is just noise. And for me, though, as a fundraiser, those things are the human connection, the conversations, the making sure that I'm fully present with people when I'm in the room with them, if it's a coffee or a Zoom or no matter what it is, and understanding that we have those time blocks in between the conversations. And someone asked me the other day, and you talk about complexity. The hard thing is we go from deep, meaningful conversations with humans about their money and about giving their money and letting go of the thing that they've worked so hard to earn for social good. And maybe our next meeting is about a budget or a communication strategy or a board meeting or. And as you line those up back to back over the course of the day, and again, I would go back 10 years maybe and look at myself sitting in a room and going, I might have been sitting in a strategy meeting thinking about something else. I've really learned how to be present for chunks of time. And that has helped me not master the complexity by any sense, but at least be able to work in it a little better.
That's good. So you've built habit around focusing on the people, but
Yeah.
there's always the balance of the human relationship that has a foundation of data, right? That you have to manage
Yeah.
those relationships. So is there a tool or another way or habit that you use to stay focused on the human relationship and stay organized so that those relationships don't fall through the cracks?
Yeah. Matt and I talked last month or a couple months ago about the importance of CRMs and donor management systems, and really, in particular, how when they're leveraged in a really meaningful, effective way, we can become much more efficient with how much time we have for human interaction. And so, I would say again, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, those types of systems, as you look back on them now, were maybe archaic a little bit, or more sales modeled or
Yeah.
funnel modeled. And now it's, they're only as good as the information that you put in them. And so I really depend on those things when I talk to you about signal versus noise in the next 18 hours. I'm looking to my notes and my records of what I've put in. What do I know about Rob? So that when I meet with him this afternoon, I can go into that meeting with information and background and really fully understanding how I want to approach that and what's important to Rob and how we go into that. And for me, it's helped start to deliver some depth of connection and understand the totality of the networks. And it's something that I really pride myself on is, as I learn about people, regardless of if they're a donor or not, how I make those connections and say, hey, you had mentioned that this was important to you. And I also met this other person, and that same thing is important to them. I think it would be really cool if the two of you talked. Like, fundamentally, as humans, there's no better way to know that someone cares about what we said than when they put it into action.
Yeah, that's such a great call out. And it's something that I've experienced in my own philanthropy of giving, where the people that I connect with the most, the fundraisers I connect with the most, are the ones that treat me as a human and treat me as part of their network of, hey, you should meet this person. And it just builds on the human connection rather than looking at a transactional give
Yeah.
and take, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's talk about burnout. I've got a question here for you. So fundraising, it can be emotional, it can be draining. what's a practice or a ritual that you've implemented in your life that you would recommend to other fundraisers to help you stay grounded and avoid burnout? How have you built that into your?
Part of it, I'll give you some like kind of cheesy, lame, cliche answers in a second, but part of it is a mindset and understanding there is literally more wealth today in the world than there has ever been. There's no shortage of money. You know, I'm not competing with any other fundraisers for any money. I'm not worried. I've figured out how to get myself out of, at least in the fundraising universe, this scarcity mindset of like, how are we going to survive and how are we going to, and we have to make this money last longer. And how do we do that? And I've moved into, there is an abundance of wealth. There's an abundance of money and there is an abundance of people that want to do good. And my job is to connect with them. And if I do that well, our organization will realize our vision. And if I don't do that well, then it's on me. And so that in and of itself, Rob, that idea of like, I'm not scraping for pennies and I'm not trying to just figure out survival, but rather the better I do at the work that I do, the more opportunities are open to the organization. Just that idea of moving from scarcity to abundance has really helped me in terms of burnout and has helped with pressure. The other thing that I'll say is, and I told you I was going to give you some lame, like cliche answers, but this is real for me. Going for walks, like in the middle of the day, like I'll just walk out the front door and leave my phone and yeah, go for a walk around the neighborhood and let the sun hit my face and just think. And you know, unfortunately for me, I end up having thoughts where I need to like get immediately back to my computer and write out what I was thinking. But escape, you heard me say signal and noise, like escape the noise for 10 minutes and just be with yourself and your thoughts and without any pressure, and journaling too. And then lastly, we just came back from Vermont for the holiday, and just that we had a staff meeting yesterday, and one of our opening question was like, what percentage is your battery at? And I said, okay, I'm really tired because we just spent 5 days like with friends and family and it was nonstop action. I'm tired, but my battery is at 100. Like I feel so good and so recharged and ready to go. Do that. It doesn't have to be a week or 2 weeks. It can be 2 days, and just be with people where you can be yourself. And I think that's the thing that we miss most often. And that's where I see burnout going is don't think that a vacation is like being on a 2 day retreat with your work. Like that's work. You're being paid to be there. Go with people. And I said this yesterday, 4th of July, we were at a party, two parties, and both parties were full of people that have known me since I was born. And I watched my kids play with their kids, and there is no pressure. There's no one that's worried about like where you live or where your kids go to school or what your job is or how much money you make or how much money you're bringing in. There's no pressure. You can just go and exist and watch your kids play and talk about like all like memories and what you're up to with no sense of like no one's getting anything out of it. And just to be able to exist in that space and like watch your kids smile and be able to talk to people that you know are not judging you at all in any sense, like immediately takes all of this pressure away and immediately takes all of this feeling of what am I going to do when I get back to work next week? And you just get lost in it. And I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, that's some super good advice. I love that. Be with people, go for a walk. I love that. All right. So I think the last question here as we wrap up, Courtney, is for the fundraisers that are listening right now who feel maybe underwater, they have too many goals on their plate, they don't feel like they have enough time. They might even feel like they're not enough themselves to do the job. Like they're overwhelmed. What advice would you give them?
I would say this, Rob, to anyone that's feeling burnout or feeling like they're not doing a good job or they're too busy, understand that for me, fundraising is the most noble of all of the professions. We get an opportunity to change the world. We get an opportunity to connect people to other people and to leverage dollars that fundamentally make our existence better. And by our, I mean everyone. And when you step back for a second, even when you're in the middle of a crazy day with back to back to back meetings and you have budget numbers and revenues that you have to hit, and people's livelihoods depend on whether or not you're going to bring in the next gift, know that it's okay and it'll be all right. And there are people that support you. And, I think that's the big thing too, is even within your organization, no matter how you're doing and how you're performing, people want you to be successful and people want to help and people want to be involved. And if you need support or if you need help, ask for it. And know that you're not going to get every gift. You just won't. It's the nature of the job and it's okay. And if you miss a meeting or if you're sick or if you have somewhere to be there and be present and do some things for you. Do some things for you that make you feel good. And I think we could all do a lot better if we just took it all a little less seriously.
100% agree. Well, Courtney, thank you for joining today. This was super packed with really good knowledge and expertise. I think the takeaways for me are the pieces around even just going for a walk. I hope those that are listening, when you get off of this, go take a walk. 100% agree with you. I think that just clears your mind. But the idea around focusing and being okay with not knowing it and not having an answer to everything, that's such a huge piece. And it's something I agree with you. If we all of us take things a little less seriously and be a little bit more like our kids who are just there to hang out and to become friends with everybody, that's a huge piece. The other big takeaway is the human connection. We talk about that a lot on our podcast and in our content, but the human connection is only so good as the amount of time you spend with those humans. You can't send an email and make a relationship. You have to pick up the phone. You have to meet them in person. And relationship can be built on top of those emails, but they can't be the email, right? So any final thoughts before we end here?
Just appreciate it. And like I said, in the beginning, understand in the fundraising universe that if you're successful 30% of the time, you'll be in the Hall of Fame and you might not get any recognition for it. But, know that every success is really meaningful and you don't have to chase it. There's plenty out there, and do it the right way for the right reasons, and we'll all be better off.
Awesome. Well, this is only the beginning of the Focused Fundraiser. I'll be live every Tuesday with another guest. So if you're listening and feel the pull to do less, but to do it better, I hope this conversation gave you a nudge to simplify and to focus. And I hope fully to lean into the ruthless elimination of more. That's a big piece of this. And so if you're a fundraiser and you'd like to share your insights with other fellow fundraisers, please send me a message. I'd love to have you join the conversation. And lastly, if you know a fundraiser who needs to hear this, please pass it on. We're here to help. And we will see you next week.